Yep.
Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Wednesday, June the 27th, 2018. And I'm joined by my friends, my gal pals, my posse, Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger. Thank you, ladies. And BZ, I like the way you actually, if you can remember how you started off when we were talking about what we were going to talk about. And because I loved I always wish I had just hit record. So if you could just say that again, because I loved the way you put it. I am responsible. I heard I am responsible for, and then I can't say the words exactly as you said.
I am responsible for everything that I create, everything that I sense and see, that I come into connection with, whether it's just me right here, my higher selves, my soul, something outside of me, someone outside of me, some event, structure, and all outside of me. So I'm responsible for that, and I'm responsible for how I hold that, how I interact with that, how I judge or not judge that, how I love or not love that, how I respect or not respect that, and how I actually do those things instead of saying, well, I love that. And my whole energy frequency is something that's completely anathema to the phrase, I love that, or I'm good with that, or hi, aren't you wonderful? And you're freaking me out, get away from me is what you really, so because every being is changing dramatically right this moment. Every structure, every part of what we thought was reality is imploding. And everything is seeming to be new, or seeming to be shifting and changing, or seeming to be that we come into contact with it, come into connection with it in a different way. So, and we're just about to go into a major leap off the diving board of quantum and multidimensionality in the next moment. So rather than just waiting until that happens, and waiting, which is not actually preparing or not actually wanting to ever come because you're always waiting, if we play with, from our own perspective, from our own center, from our own true north, of how do I and my energy walk in the world, be in the energetic field, be in the quantum? Because it's an inside job. So right here for me, right, actually my arms aren't long enough to encompass my whole field, but right here for me, this is my universe, which comes into contact and connection with other beings, individual beings, universes, other star structures, all sorts of other things. But how I hold my energy and how I connect that energy and send out and commingle that energy is absolutely my choice, my responsibility, my ability. So nothing is done to me, nothing is forced on me. It's all a choice. But beyond that, so those are other things we've covered a little bit and we can play with more. But today what feels like is when we encounter how is it that we are being? How is it that we are showing up? What is the energy frequency that we are emitting? Because gone are the days where there were lots of others who couldn't read energy very well, who couldn't sense things. Now, even if they don't categorize it that way, that I know how to do that, they can, and they can pick up on it. So that brings out two things. One, that if you're saying one thing, but your energy is bringing something else, then that's a dishonoring to yourself and to some other being or structure around you. And the other thing that it brings out is that gone are the days of taking your energy, taking your sustenance, taking your the energy that powers you, like you might think of food does, from others is gone. The expansiveness and higher frequencies. So in other words, if you ever walked into a room and you thought, oh, that person is so draining, because they would be, so that's gone. But unless you are completely aware of how you hold your energy for yourself, again, this all starts right with you. And then you come out with, another being, could be a dog or a cat or a horse or whatever. It could be a human being. It could be all sorts of things. Because we're changing, we are our sole power source for everything. For the way we think that we get it from food, the way we get it from energy, so that we need to be completely aware of how we're expending that energy. Because since that's been cut off from taking it from others, when we've depleted it because we're off running our brain on some, goofy ass thing, or really freaking ourselves out, or really winding ourselves up, then we're spending our energy. It's like someone being inside of your icebox, taking all the food out of it and throwing out the thing and going, okay, I feel better. And then you go, look, there's nothing left to eat, because you just had a tantrum and you've expended all of that energy. So until you lay down or rest or come back to raise your energy vibration again, it's gone. So what does that mean? Well, it means if you're fussing about something and not working through it and looking at it and integrating, then you're actually taking all the gas out of your tank, have not come to any kind of connection and integration point with what it is you were fussing about, and you don't have anything left to give yourself, or if you wanted to give other energy to others, as far as love energy or resources or that kind of thing. And here's another thing. So there's all sorts of beings, whether you know it or not, or believe it or not, or understand it or not, that are not just human beings right on the surface of this planet that we live on. And we won't even talk about within the surface of the planet that we live on. We won't even talk about the different frequencies of energy right standing next to us, or above the planet, or on, the stellar structure known as the moon, and so on and so forth. So you don't have to believe it for them to exist, because they're there anyways. And we are going to be able to see and interact and connect with those, because everything is shifting. So if we're not clear on ourselves and what's going on and how we're connecting with just things right now in our kind of old way and thoughts of looking at things, then how are we going to connect that? So they're actually all of a piece. And if you notice, the one that's the focal point is us.
Right.
So we're responsible.
Right. Well, since the whole goal for me anyway is to get to know me the best I can, I mean, thank goodness. um, I noticed for myself over the weekend that getting that field in okay, because I had a family function to attend on Saturday, and being clear about how I felt about myself, and any interactions that I might have, felt really good to have. Because I've had that issue with the whole straddling different frequential, but I went in not expecting to have to worry about that, and just knowing and trusting. Well, a lot of things have shifted for me because partly, this whole being able to see that all perspectives are valid, that has made that has made my life so much easier, and can't hardly, sometimes get past the fact that I didn't see that before, because it just seems so logical now that
multidimensional. So
say that again.
Yeah.
It's multidimensional. So you've expanded quite a bit.
Yeah, because for most people, I think we're still at most, but certainly a whole lot of many people, that's not logical at all.
Nope.
What are you, nuts? What are you smoking?
And that's just, I get that is a true statement, that there is still folks like that. But for me, it almost seems like, I don't know how, again, because I've been thinking for a long time, all things are possible. Well, you can't think that and not feel that there's at least the possibility that this and this are both right. And from, certain perspectives, they just are. And
well, in all perspectives, they just are. Just like you can't be quantum and not have that. And okay, well, let's go to the big one. You can't be source, because source has gone out in all rays and fathoms to learn all this. So you're going to have every perspective. Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah, I think the first time I really, really, truly actually got that, I was like, oh my God, how can anybody stand there and say we are all one, and then say this is right and that's wrong? Oh, Deb, that's that. Just right then when I finally got it, I was like, wait a minute, that's like the easiest thing to solve right there. If we're really all one, then it can be no other way. Then all of it is right. Every single perspective is valid, bar none. And it also helped me by revisiting the will and the word of I again. And that one specific line in there that really clinched it for me, that perception is the only privacy. And in truth, oh, you know what? I got to share this too, because I think this actually applies to that thinking. My sister was visiting us this weekend, and she reminded me of a movie that I had seen years ago, and how it's a very cool metaphor for what we are. And that's Multiplicity with Michael Keaton. They clone him, and they say that, yes, every one of these is you, and they'll have all your memories up to the moment they become conscious. Then they begin having their own experiences, and that's what makes them unique. It's the exact same thing. So anyone that might be watching this that has any issue with multidimensionality, and you're wondering what the hell is that woman talking about, go check that movie out. It's an old movie. It's, but I think it's a really good metaphor for this, and what we're sort of talking about here. I didn't go off on. I forgot. Did I go off on something now?
Hey, we're multidimensional, so we can do it.
Stuff right now.
And that's kind of the whole idea, isn't it? You know, it all, because it all dovetails and stuff. So when you think about, how would you, Lisa and Sheila, rate when you're doing things, or, and because you can even go through this playing with it, like how you're connecting with something, even if you're not actually connecting with the person who may be saying it or wrote it or whatever, right? So maybe it's a piece that you read. Mm-hmm. When you look at different things, how are you coming into contact with that? And are you being responsible, so responsible for that connection? And are you, in other words, are you coming just in one way, or kind of coming in a way that's a contradictory way? From the same, you're the source, so you're coming in two different ways that's contradictory.
Lisa, let me see if you want to go first, because I'm not quite sure I understand exactly what BZ is asking here.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've thought about it in that way exactly before, BZ. So that's really a good question. Well, I guess what I've been focusing on is, for myself, I realize that any judgment of anything is a sign that I'm operating from my small sort of 3D linear perspective. So I'm really focused on trying to stay where I'm calling it the sacred neutral. So like or observer mode, where I just observe it instead of forming a judgment or having a belief about a thing. I'm looking at it as, well, you know, I read a lot of blogs that people write and stuff, and I'm looking at it as their story. And I'm focusing on just the beauty of all the stories right now. Like, I don't know, everything to me is coming off as beautiful, and I'm really able to learn from everything that I'm encountering if I approach it from that sort of sacred neutral. What does this have to show me, you know, about myself? And so some of the things that I've been able to look at using that for myself are things I don't particularly need anymore. So it's been great to approach things that way for myself, because I can see what I need to let go. And then some things are actually expanding the way that I see things, and I'm seeing more of me. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does. Actually, it does, and it did it in a really cool twist, because the way I took it in, you also gave a brilliant illustration of how you're your own power energy source, and it doesn't feed off of others, doesn't give its power away to others. So in other words, oftentimes, and this, maybe this will help with my description of that. So sometimes we read something and we think, oh, I don't agree with that, or no, that's wrong. And so there's a lot of judgment. So in that case, that energy frequency stance is actually a drawing energy from other people. To make them wrong, to make them small, to make them make it a hierarchical thing where you know better, smarter, wiser, whatever.
Right.
The same way you can look at, and so you kind of gave that, well, I no longer need that, right? So instead of fighting with it and letting it go, but you didn't make yourself small.
No.
In the looking at that, so you didn't give your power away with that.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about being our own power source. It could be actual of the amount of, let's say if we have, this is a chalice of something that we can have our energy. When this is empty, we got to go to sleep because we don't have enough. And we power ourselves. It comes from our own connection to our soul and our own frequency vibration, coupled with what we do for the physical body that we still need to some degree for food, for sustenance that way. Mm-hmm. But everything that we do now, because we can't take it from someone else or give it away, it runs on that. And so now, use your example. So when you were reading something, instead of you using expanding energy because you were either judging something else or judging your own reaction that you're having to what someone else put out there, that's expending energy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So in that moment, we then need to decide, well, maybe that's a really good use of my energy. Because right this moment, as you just said, right, you said, was showing me what I no longer needed. Okay, well, that's a good use of my energy. And I can see that, let it go. And now that release of the stuff I let go of, which I integrated, actually gave me more energy because it filled me up. Yep. And then the other things that you were talking about where you say it expanded, same things. So you were at the center, at the choice point, and response able for your energy creation.
Yes.
I like the way you guys put that. Okay, so I do see what you're saying now. I mean, I didn't quite understand, I guess. But yeah, that came up for me some this weekend too, but in a different fashion. In that, just having conversations with those, again, being able to see where, okay, yes, I feel that that's a valid perspective. It's not my perspective. And being able to say that now for myself and not feel the need to say, oh, that's wrong, I don't agree with that. Because, that's been my MO in the past, is to be very judgy or judgmental and not realize that I was being such. I just thought I was right. I've done that a lot in my life. But finally being able to see that it is right for that person to feel whatever way they choose, as they too are source. And if they choose to experience something in a certain manner or way that I don't feel is proper or good for me, well, that's okay, because they are source too and have every right to do that. Who the hell do I think I am, trying to stop them from having whatever experience they wish to have?
And think about the amount of energy that it would take to educate the whole world.
Well, yes. And honestly, I didn't think about it in that manner. That's why I'm very grateful to have this conversation. I noticed it for myself. I also noticed how much more pleasant my entire experience has been since I have this true knowing for myself in regards to this. It's not like I'm trying not to say anything because of anything, it's not like that at all. It's a true knowing and feeling that, yes, it can be fine and is fine. Not just can be. When I first started considering it, it was like, oh yeah, I can see where that is. But now I get it that no, it is. And there is no can, or I could see how that's possible, or, I get it now. I really, truly grok it in a way I've never grokked before. And the difference in that feeling of knowing and the richness of the experience. And in this moment of now, I can feel the chasm of possibility that all of that opens for expansion of myself and any other being that actually comes to know that. That's exciting stuff right there.
Yeah, and you too just you answered the question and you gave a twist of your twist that Lisa did on the energy. So you gave a great illustration of where that, your energy, creation, expanding of, depletion of, or offering of comes in. So you, by going and doing what you did and being in your knowing, that was a sustainable energy as far as, sustenance energy, that when you were just like this fountain, this, reflowing of fountains bubble, and they're pretty, and the water doesn't go out, so nothing's lost. It's a continuous loop. So by doing that, you were giving yourself that continuous loop of good energy, right? And that made the whole experience, because you weren't giving your power away. You weren't fussing, and you weren't trying to take someone else's energy from them, vampiristically feed off of them because, no, I'm right, you're wrong, and making them small. The other one is that when you talked about, I forgot exactly what I mentioned, but that you could see that someone else had their perspective, and if they wanted to offer it, but when you said, from my perspective, right? So just in that moment, that was actually an example of how there's a gift of energy, not that has to be given up, but it just is there, that they can come into contact with, because just the energy frequency of, from my perspective, it's not from my perspective, you're an idiot and I'm smart. It's not. It's just you are who you are, and nothing diminishes your energy frequency, right? But when someone else encounters that may have never come into connection with something like that, the gift is that they can look. It's not pushed on them. It's not overriding anything, but they can just see it, like they saw a beautiful bird flying by or something. They can choose to encounter that themselves, and there is a nurturing, sustainable, nourishing energy frequency that is just given. And if they don't want to connect with that any further, then it just dissipates and it goes back to the field of all energy.
Well, there was an added benefit for me as well in that, in this particular interaction, and a couple of interactions that I had over the weekend. In that, by truly knowing and feeling and experiencing all of that this perspective is right, as well as my own. And then in an instance where the other person felt that my perspective was not at all theirs, but couldn't quite meet hope I'm not frozen. My internet connection says it's unstable. Am I?
You were for a minute, but go ahead.
Okay.
Couldn't quite meet
my perspective to see that I could be right for me, right? In other words, they were having trouble seeing it the way I see it, right? I honored myself in that, that's okay too. That's okay too. And I just honored myself in a way that that I've never done before. And I didn't feel judgy about myself because I did that. Because I'm really usually very hard on myself about things that sometimes are not my fault or not my issue or things like that. But it was all still a very pleasant interaction. Nothing, you know what I mean? It wasn't disrespectful or disharmonious in any way, really. certainly not for me, and it didn't feel as though it was for the other person. Perhaps a little uncomfortable at first for the other person.
Yeah, because it's new. It's kind of like meeting a new being, or a being that looks differently or acts differently. Yeah.
Right.
But you would know right away if there was that disconnection, was that lack of respect, because we're so well trained, it comes out in discord and pushback. Well, that's a stupid, so that's how you know it right away. Again, that's the trying to draw your energy from you, because that being feels that there's like a leak in their own, and so they got to try to take some stuff on board to balance that.
I gotcha.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I also noticed something when I first started practicing this for myself. The relationships that I felt were discordant in my life, that there were just things about the relationship that I was not happy with and feeling uncomfortable about. And it was usually I needed somebody to change in some particular fashion so that I might feel better about the whole thing. So when I began to really just focus on me and staying in my, sacred center, I realized that I really didn't need anything from anyone else, that I had it all within me. And it freed me up from that silly, ridiculous entanglement thing that I was doing, making everybody else responsible for me. And when I took that chore on for myself, the most amazing things began to happen in my relationships.
Imagine that.
Yeah, the things that I didn't like in folks started to just disappear. Literally, they left the relationship.
Yeah.
So, inside job, because it was the way I was interacting in those relationships that was causing the difficulties that I was so unhappy with.
Right.
And I tried for years to fix them so we could be happy. And the minute that I fixed myself and just became happy, just really looked right here and became happy in my own skin, right where I was, everything began to change around me. So never underestimate the power of you.
True. But now we all know that doesn't always work. And I wanted to put that out there too. But
I was surprised that it can and does.
Right. Well, no, you're right. It's important to know that it can, but also, well, like in my case,
for that reason, I knew that the way I was going at things wasn't working for me or the people in relationship to me. And actually, I just I got there because I finally said, you know what? I can't control any of you. So all that's left apparently is me. And I realized that that's where it all is. And when I turned my attention and my focus to that, everything began to change.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, because that is exactly what I did too. That's why I'm saying it very clearly for me, things didn't go quite that way for me. However,
for me,
wait a minute. You're talking about your former significant other?
Yes.
And what makes you think it didn't work?
No. I'm saying that in the particular relationships, not all of them work out the way you think you might have wanted or expected. That's the point I'm trying to make. For me, it worked out perfectly in that I'm a much happier being, and I actually created what took place. I'm just wanting to be sort of clear. I was doing that same thing. I was working on myself. in my relationship. My relationship did not survive that maneuver. However, I don't think it was meant to.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
It's just that I heard, okay, so the minute, the reason I wanted to be clear is because the minute Lisa was, because I happened to hear a thing out there, oh, well, if I work on myself, he's going to stay or she's going to stay. And
But that's not what Lisa said.
No, I know that. I'm saying I heard.
Also,
Right.
that's
No, I know.
But you didn't want that. What you wanted at the moment that we were just for 6 months worth of moments, you wanted out.
Yes, because it wasn't working. You're right. I was working on me, and I know I wasn't happy. I'm just saying, okay.
Yeah, but that's where I just want to clear up this one point that's talking about the kind of the focus of this particular conversation.
Yes.
So so Lisa has her story and it worked out, great the way she thought it was, although it wasn't different because she was fixing them and she realized, okay, there's nothing to fix. So that really didn't work out the way she thought, yet she got the feeling, the energy frequency in the relationship that she wanted. And Sheila, you talked about something else and that didn't work out or did work out, right? But that's where the you or I am, however you're going to hold it. So you are responsible or I am responsible for how I connect.
Right.
And if there's a judgment to, I'm doing this to get that, okay, right there, look at the core of the energy and I'm talking about the energy from, like the battery pack.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So if you're doing this to get that, you have a leak in your battery pack.
Right. No, I'm total agreement.
Yeah.
I was responding, I think, to something I heard in the ethers.
Well, and that comment was just to the ethers. I'm sending that on back to the ethers.
Yes.
The other thing too is that what you both were saying is that's a good example of where service to self is. I heard a bunch of people say, well, she just focused on her, but that's when service to self is as other. Okay, so look at all, just to use Lisa's example, in doing all that was in theory, focusing on herself, forget about everybody else. Well, yeah, but look at the gift that she gave all those other beings that she was coming to contact with. She stopped taking their energy. She stopped trying to put, constraints on them. She gave herself the gift of being happier and a connection without all of those kind of devices of pulling energy from other people, right? Or a fight of them trying to pull the energy back from her. And just stood as an example simply because she was there of how to hold your own energy, I'm talking about the battery pack of energy.
Right.
And you as well, Sheila, gave the same, in your own version, the same example.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about is that because we give, how many times have you say you stop giving your power away? Well, we give, the habit is to give our power away a lot, or that happens very often, or to try to take other people's power. A bully takes other people's power. All those kinds of things. You look on the world stage right now. We're seeing all of that played out. Whereas the pulling back and forth of power, even if you might look at it, the bad guys or the good guys. If you're kind of isolating in different camps, there is still that pulling of power, and you can tell when it's not so much to categorize it as someone, but more of in a moment. So in an interaction, in an exchange, however you want to phrase it, where it's clean and there is nothing taken or tried to be taken. It just stands on its own. It's like you described, Sheila, when you went and you had your family gathering. In your knowing, was this, I can feel it buzzing in my hands, was this energy sphere of just beautiful, glowing, radiant energy. So yes, you're the energy that your being was giving out, but I mean in the power source part of the energy. Unlimited, untappable as far as tapping something out, and just radiating that energy, which could since it's abundant and unlimited, could actually have a overflow of energy if one wanted, like a bird comes and drinks out of a bird bath, because it's there and it wants it, and the rain comes, and so it's kind of a self-fulfilling thing. So that's, and when we come into conflict or find that that's a problem, is where we go, well, we're so tired or something, because we're not, I'll use a linear word, we're not managing how we haven't noticed that this is now occurring. We can't get our power from other things. We're not locked into that same, it's like the voltage in the to an like in other country, you have to use different voltage. Well, we're in the 5D world, so the voltage and how we get it has changed, to use that as a metaphor. And so if we're not noticing, if we're not aware of that yet, then this comes up with a depletion, a feeling of a depletion in our energy, because we're not mindful of how we are actually expending our energy. When we do something and we're in an open-hearted space, we actually fill up our battery energetically, because it comes right from source through the central sense, through us, empowers us. Okay? When we're negative to ourselves, negative to others, judgmental to ourselves, judgmental to others, along those lines, it pulls the energy out. And until we go back to something that's open-hearted, so if we're resting, that lets us reconnect to the real flow of energy. We can then power our batteries up again.
Well, I wasn't aware that was, I kind of knew intuitively that could be, a possible thing. I knew about energy vampirism before, because, I had actually felt that, being around other people. I was not aware that is not happening anymore, and that we are sustaining ourselves, because I'm not really out and about very much. So thank you for bringing that, because that's a good noticing point for those that do interact now out, in about, to keep a notice on, because I would imagine that there are lots of folks that haven't, it just would be interesting, I guess, to see how this is playing out there in the, I would be kind of afraid, I guess. Not afraid, but
Well, it's interesting. So yes, you're absolutely right about being out and about, except that when you come into contact with other structures, they could be a person that you talk to on the phone, be a person you could typing with Skype, so it doesn't have to be standing right next to you. Mm-hmm. But it's the same energy comes from that, because if you interact with a video or a blog post or something like that, or there's you're watching a live conversation where people are talking back and forth, that's interacting, because it's all energy.
Well, that's true.
So how you come into so you can, unless you are in a space out in the woods or something like that, where you're just, but you can do the same thing there, because if you're pissed off at all the squirrels that are running around, okay, well, you're doing the same thing.
Well, it's a good noticing point, I guess, is what I was thinking for anyone, really. I hadn't thought about, I didn't realize that that was, something that's now ended, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I never thought of it in that way either.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, because we were in what we were, because we were in the linear 3D frequency levels, which is very dualistic, which was very polarized. That was in a way, I'll use linear terms, a sick, polluted kind of energy flow that just kept spinning around. So taking, or giving, you know. And sometimes we'd come into a pocket, or we'd lash out, you know, so we kind of fill ourselves up. But it was you know, it was relegated to that area, that frequency vibrational neighborhood. We've moved out of that. And so we're in connection with our true frequency vibrations and the true essence of who we are, and we're pulling that into our physical embodiment. And so this vessel now is the conduit for running the energy, again, to power our battery pack. We need to do it from the way that battery pack powering works always, except in where the 3D polarized center was. So one can have more energy and feel more excited, can feel more just like you ate something, you know, in the middle of the day, if you haven't eaten anything, you feel dragged down ahead. So you can power yourself up by noticing what it is you're giving and expending your energy on. And sometimes, so if you're doing a lot of things where you're doing, you're creating a lot of things, you're consciously choosing to expand your energy in all different directions that are actually helping expand everything, that are helping raise the frequencies, that are helping to tear down the old remaining constructs, and create and build and nurture all that's coming in. Okay, that's going to run your battery packs down. And so then a way to do that is to go to sleep and recharge them, or to go in a place where you're just focused for, you know, a block of moments where you're recharging, you're pulling it back in through you and raising the energy. But you can't do it in, I think the best way to do it, say it is stopgap measures that we used to do before. And the nice thing about that is that the way that you generate that energy, it all comes from you. So you're responsible for it. So that it's clean and clear, pure energy, which actually has, you know, I don't know the right saying in the old energy, but has more candlelight hours and more lumina, you know, to use the if you were looking at a package of light bulbs or something like that. It gives forth more radiance. And when you've used it all up in that moment, right, because you always can generate your own, it's just a noticing point. And what it helps you do is to be more response able to how you're spending it. So even if you never saw anybody else and you're in a room and you're in the habit of judging yourself, or going around and around about something, or being bothered by why you're bothered about being bothered about something, whatever that is, right? Then, like I said, if you look at that and go, okay, I realize that I'm spending my energy on that. I know I only have X number, kind of like a way that you're noodling something around. I only have X number, and I'm taking a large portion for this. So I'm choosing now, because I'm reminding myself I'm choosing to be aware of this. Right. And I'm feeling that in playing with this is a great point for me to integrate a bunch of stuff. And so, yeah, I'm going to spend my energy right here for this. Or I'm going to say, well, I'm just doing that unconsciously, and I'm just playing with it, chasing my tail, because I'm not noticing, I'm not being present. Okay, that's enough of that, and spend my energy this way. And so whatever that is going to be a bazillion different things in any moment for every being. But just in noticing that has the differential in noticing that and being responsible, responsible and accountable. So you're actually counting the energies, right? Your battery power pack has the same differential significance as Sheila gave the example when she went to the family gathering and she was in her knowing of her perspective and their perspective and absolutely valid and gorgeous, whichever it was. So, like I said, that really gave a lot of charge to your battery, that knowingness. And this has the same, I'm not making a good analogy of it because I'm trying not to use too much old.
Well, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was absolutely excellent. You know, you both know I've been wrestling with something, and that kind of actually is very, very, very clear. I see what I was doing there. So that's very interesting. I think it was excellent representation. You gave a beautiful representation. No twist at all. I love that. It was very clear. And no, I thought I love that. I do have one question though, because because there isn't the ability to do the energy vampirism thing any longer. Does that mean we're going to start seeing a whole bunch of people asleep all over the place? Because that's a lot of energy that gets expended out there over, some things,
Do you envision people falling out on the subway?
kind of.
Yeah, actually people are doing it. Where I work, there's a lot of people, and it's amazing. I got a text the other day that a lot of people were out sick all of a sudden.
Oh, well, yeah, there's a lot of that. Yes.
Oh, okay. So
and I can't tell you how many establishments I've gone in just to go buy, grocery store, this, that, the other thing, and there, people are out sick, but they're not, well, all of a sudden they're all sick. Okay, well, no, they're really not, because there are lines at the doctor's offices, but nobody can find anything wrong with them because we all know what's going on. So yeah, it's absolutely, there are things where people could be nodding off of their driving, or you happen to be, watching different things. So yeah, it's being accountable for your energy. It's being conscious of how you create your energy and how you flow it, because we are sustainable systems. And the other thing is, too, that there's so much change. So the changes, I don't really think, even if many people who understand what's going on and they feel, I feel different, or I notice this, or I might look at, and I'm talking about changes in your body, in your emotional body, physical body, mental body, right? Okay, so, Sheila, you mentioned that you hold things in a very different way than you used to, okay? Well, that's significant change. That's not just something as seemingly simple as, well, okay, I've got my perspective and they've got their perspective, and they're both, valid perspectives. They both have equal weight, all that kind of stuff, and it's in a 0 point. But to get to that, that's what I think this whole conversation is really about. To get to that understanding, to get to the place where you realize that your body is, in some respects, feeling younger, looking younger. In some respects, you can have different abilities that heretofore you didn't understand that you had. Whatever it is, there's lots of noticings that people are doing. But to get to any one of those things means that your bodies, all the different ones, they go through enormous changes, you know, kind of like they were this and they went to this, or they went to, you know, like that, right? And then you put a number of those things together, right? So abilities, the change in perception, the change in mentalities, the change in the emotions, the way that you're letting go of a lot of things physically on all different bodies again. Okay, now when you start to put those together, I mean, you know, you're talking about things changing in all sorts of ways. I don't know if you've ever paid much attention to construction, but if you've watched someone build a house and big trucks come in, they dig a hole in the ground and wow, okay, you know, and then you come back a little while later and there's all the framing is up, but it's just sticks, you can see through it. And you come back a little later and the house is there and they're opening the front door and they're walking in. Okay, so most beings, to take the bigger aggregate, have gone from the hole in the ground to the studs, all sheathed with so there's plywood on the outside, there's plywood on the top, you know, and they've roofed the roof. A lot more beings, the house is all closed in and the furniture van is moving up with furniture. And a bunch of beings, you know, the house is in, the cookout's going in the back, everything's landscaped, the butterflies are there, the hummingbirds are running around, and the fairies are all sitting on, you know, the rock wall and swinging their legs and their wings, and everybody's hanging out. So, I mean, from the hole in the ground. So that's, just to give you a visual, that's how dramatic that the changes, and we're not all the way through them yet. However you want to hold that.
Well, yeah, I've seen a couple of different things. I think I actually did a recording. I don't know if I actually put it out yet, but I did a recording in regards to the 12 different levels of light body. I kind of liked what it had to say. And I noticed, of course, you know, they're listed in linear fashion, but I also noticed that they don't actually go in order. For me personally, I saw a whole bunch of, okay, well, I got that, but I don't got that, and I got that, so I don't got that, you know. I had stuff that was all the way up in the 8th or the 9th, but I didn't have things that were in the 3rd or the, you know. So I don't, for me, what I'm noticing is that, you know, we're all going to find ourselves at different spots and different levels. And I've said all along that I thought that everybody's telling the same story, you know, that's having memories and things like that, where there were lots of folks out there that were saying, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right. And I think now I can really see where they're all right. Everybody's right. So let's just all calm down for a minute. Because it's just all over the place though. So
yeah, because it's quantum and multidimensional.
Yeah.
And so if you look at a chart like that and you kind of, you know, with a computer, you can morph it so it was a toroidal, then you go, oh yeah, look at that. But it's because we tend to slot,
right,
you know, and linear thing, that you're trying to describe something that isn't like that at all, that goes more like this, and put it like this. Well, okay, that's hard to do.
Yeah, and with our current language, it is really hard to try to, you know, even just to speak things sometimes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, wow, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes. Me too.
It was really very helpful for me in particular.
Mm-hmm.
As I was actually expending quite a lot of I have been expending quite a lot of energy lately. on silly things that don't really matter. So awesome. Well, do either one of you have anything else you'd like to add to this energetic envelope before we close it?
No, just thank you to you lovely ladies. This was a great conversation.
Just tell me, what's the name behind Sheila? I mean, behind Lisa?
Oh, the tree?
Yeah.
The tree directly behind Lisa revealed herself to me as Hazel.
Yeah. Because Hazel's been talking and chatting and kind of winking at me, and I couldn't remember her name, and I felt bad.
Oh, okay. It's Harrison is the one just over her shoulder there. Well, Lisa's left shoulder. Nope, your left.
Here?
Yes, that's your left, isn't it? Oh my God, am I?
I'm confused because I thought, okay, that's all right. Go ahead. Continue.
Yes, Lisa, this is your left shoulder.
Just want to make sure.
I need my other left.
No,
Here, right?
no, not that one. It was, you were fine. It was, we could see it. It was in your view.
Well, now I've done
He's the one, well, he's the one that's prickly, and he didn't want to tell me his name for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't want to tell me his name for a long time.
No, I
That day we were out there a long time.
Oh, cool.
Whoa! Okay, everybody's seasick now.
No worries. We got this. But his name is Harrison.
Harrison.
Yeah, because he has pointy leaves, and he doesn't like the fact that everybody say what?
That leaves have thorns.
Yes, and so he was kind of sad that not everybody appreciates his leaves. That's what he told me.
He's pretty.
We love him.
He is a beautiful tree.
All the trees here are gorgeous.
I know. I
Mhm.
know. My little fairy yard. Well, thank you, ladies, and we will have everybody's information in the show more section of the video, as we normally always do, and how to reach me. And if you'd like to become a member of the PPC squad, my email address is there. And till next time.
Much love.
Mhm.